pension out of it, but I'm not going to retire right now. I'm not going to retire for a number of years. Well, the retirement benefits for are set by a contract which right now extends through 2022. The retirement benefits, actually, you can even purchase for a small additional payment. You can purchase a certain after 22 right now, the retirement age is scheduled to go up, and if you don't want to be bound by that retirement age, you can actually pay some money now if you were going to and retire after 2022 with the current retirement ages. So you can do all those things, but I do have to say, if the unions in the state were to negotiate a new retirement system for years beyond 2022. So for those years, let's say instead of a 1.5%, it's 1% or whatever, you'd be bound by that, but like everybody else that's in that plan. We hopefully won't do that. That's part of the uncertainties of the future that everybody faces. Yes.
Does the hybrid as well as the Sears assume a cost of living adjustment?
Yes. All the benefits of the hybrid plan are identical to the benefits of the Sears plan. You just have this one. You have one extra upside, the ability to withdraw the money, and the one downside is the 3% additional contribution. Every other benefit's identical. Yeah.
There's the term vested service and actual service, and how do you get a difference between the two? And is that the buy-in, or is there other things involved with that?
There is a difference in actual service versus vested service. It primarily affects retiree health care entitlement, and your retiree health care entitlement is unaffected by whether you switch from ARP to SERS to the hybrid. That's all measured by actual state service. Does not matter what pension plan you're in. Vesting service, is essentially when we talk about pension service. The two terms they use are vesting service and credited service. And the reason they do that is that when you purchase additional service, like if you buy military time, that doesn't give you additional vesting. So for purposes of whether you hit the 5 years or not, say you have a year of service and you buy 4 years of military time, you're not vested because you really only have a year of vesting service. But actual service is about retiree health care, and your choice of these plans doesn't make any difference with respect to that. Yes?
The question, maybe I missed the answer to it. We assume that the IRS ruling may come unfavorable to us. Let's assume that.
Come in favorably or unfavorably?
Unfavorably.
Unfavorably, okay.
And so waiting would not make sense in that case. But what we obviously don't know, and what if somebody switches to the hybrid plan now? What is the possibility of switching to SERS after the favorable ruling of the IRS?
That question was asked, and the answer is, my advice is to assume that in that case the IRS would not allow you to switch again. We're not certain of that. We're not the IRS. But the arguments for allowing you to switch again seem to us to be a little scary. So if it were me, I would assume if I switched to the hybrid, that's probably where I'm going to stay. If you turn out wrong, then you're wrong. But there's a very good chance the IRS will say, no, you made your choice. You knew you could wait. Nobody made you make the choice now. You knew you could wait.
For what? We don't know. There's like double gamble here at this point.
I'm not sure what you mean by double gamble.
Because if you switch to hybrid now and wait, because your goal was to switch to SERS, but you're waiting for SERS and you don't know if it's going to be available at all.
Right, which is why we were able to get them to agree the window on the hybrid plan goes till 90 days after the ruling on the SAG award, so you can wait. Now, I mean, as the gentleman over here answered this question, there are some consequences of waiting, right? I mean, your salary may go up, the money you have in your ARP account may go up or down, but you can wait, obviously. So that's why we're guessing the IRS might well tell you, sorry, you made your choice to go into hybrid, you don't get to choose again. But they may not. I'm just nervous about it. So.
If you retire before the renegotiated contract, will that renegotiated contract affect your retirement?
No. Did you hear the question? I think her question was, we have a pension and healthcare contract through 2022. So let's say you retire in 2017. I said 1917. That seems unlikely. In 2017, And then we do, is there something we might do in 2022 which would take your benefits away? And the answer is no.
As I understand, one difference with the plan, between the hybrid plan, if you were to choose the cash out option, any money you contribute now, plus any money you contribute in the future until you retire, plus 5% employer contribution, you could cash out, essentially cash out. Is that the
Yes.
an option?
Yeah.
Whereas if you stayed in the alternate retirement plan, you're going to contribute your 5%, and the state's going to contribute its 8%, and you can. That's what you have. And so there's a little difference there between. In one case, the state's a 5% contribution; the other percent, it's an 8% contribution. Am I reading that right?
So if I understand your basic question is, what's the difference between
If you were to take that option, is there weighing those things?
the big difference between the hybrid plan and the ARP is the hybrid plan offers this defined benefit option.
That's correct.
So that's
an
the
additional-
big difference.
That's an additional benefit.
That's
But if you were to
but
choose the
if you
other-
leave that difference aside,
Yes.
then the difference is, yes, the ARP plan, there is a total of 13% paid by the employer,
That's right.
and by the employer and the employee, of which 8% is the employer and 5% is the employee, and you get, when you retire, whatever your investments have produced. Whereas if you take the cash-out version of the hybrid plan, you have your contributions plus the 5% match plus the 4% interest guaranteed. So you may do better that way. You may do worse
Maybe
that
not
way.
better that way. That's a difference between the two.
That is right. But the biggest difference, of course, is in the ARP plan, there's no defined benefit option when you retire.
Most people are looking at what's the defined payout going to be, and is it worth doing?
Right. So this is, again, it's a way of hedging your bets. The hybrid plan hedges your bets between the two types of plans.
But it doesn't leave you completely out either.
Right.
That's right. Okay.
I don't know which.
Yeah, Rachel and then Phil.
I've never heard, this is the first I've heard, that when the PLR comes through, and if it says yes, that there might be a chance that they'll say that those of us who came before, I guess 97, if we'd be in tier 2, that there would be, that we'd have to, we could join, but we couldn't join with the zero employee contribution. When did that start to surface, and is it likely?
Well, I can answer the first question definitively, and the second question is more of a guess, obviously.
Yeah.
We got the advice that the Internal Revenue Service had changed its position on new plans, and said that they have to match the same contribution rate or more as the old plan. We got that advice a few weeks ago. On the question of how will that advice affect the SAG award, because the SAG award is not about new plans. The SAG award is based upon this theory you're giving people an option that was not properly handed to them before, and now we're giving it to them the right way. So I'm simply raising the possibility that the IRS could say, look, we'll let you take that option, but we're not going to let you lower your maximum contribution. I don't know that that's going to happen. It just seems to me it is a thing the IRS could do. That's all. So.
Because I think so many of us are waiting because that's an option where you don't pay in. And if that's not going to be the case, that's really wrong.
Well, when you say it's an option, yes. Just remember that if that possibility were to happen, the 5% would be going into your ARP account for you. It wouldn't be going to the state of Connecticut.
That all that 5% is there. We'd be paying it, but it's
In the ARP account. Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, and again, I don't know that that's going to happen. It's just something.
You're just taking a lot.
It might happen.
Making a comparative according to an argument.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Could you discuss the advantages and disadvantages of making the selection of selecting the hybrid now so that you can have a defined benefit and maybe have another money, a set of money that's going to be cash? So if you don't take all your money basically and buy some of your benefits, you just want to have so much cash, but you want a regular guaranteed salary that you're going to use part of your money for, and you want another pot of money basically that you can touch anytime you want to have some liquidity with that. That's one thing that you can do to keep the hybrid. As opposed to just keeping all your money in the alternate retirement plan and then waiting until you're 66 or 65 and then making a decision at that point that you're going to go to an insurance company like Metropolitan and take half of it and buy an annuity to get a defined benefit and then keep the other money basically in that same company like TI and Crump or wherever you have it, and using that to have some liquidity. Could you put that in?
Sure. I mean, if you're talking about essentially, I could leave all my money in ARP, and then when I retire, I can take some of it and buy an annuity from some insurance company. Or maybe I like the idea of having some cash, but I want some certainty. Because when you buy money into CERS, what you're getting is certainty. You're not getting an effective renewal pension. So yeah, if you decide to hedge your bets the way you just said, what are some of the differences? Well, if you leave your money in ARP, you don't know how much cash you're going to have available to buy the annuity. That's because it depends on how your investments go, right? So you don't know how much cash you're going to have available to buy the annuity if you leave all your money in ARP. And the second thing is the annuity is more expensive. The insurance companies charge a lot more money than effectively the state of Connecticut charges for purchasing past service. Even though it is the actuarial equivalent, the amount of cash you're spending is the actual equivalent of past service, you're getting the advantage of a number of very favorable assumptions that an insurance company is not going to make. They're not going to assume they're going to earn 8.25% on your investment. It is in effect a bet. If you're essentially saying I'm going to take my money and buy an annuity with it, well, the CERS annuity, it's effectively a subsidized annuity. So, yes.
On the same token, making a choice to go to hybrid plan versus waiting, assuming a year for CERS, what are the, if you could compare the hybrid plan versus the CERS plan, what somebody is losing by going into hybrid plan, assuming that this is one choice and we cannot jump to
The only
CERS?
thing you're losing is you're paying an additional 3% contribution. That's it. That's the only downside of the hybrid as compared to the CERS plan.
CERS would be, say, 0 for those before 1997. Right?
CERS would be 0. I'm going to say it would be 0, although you heard my colloquy just a minute ago. Theoretically, it would be 5%, but the 5% would go into the ARP account. So in terms of the money that's going out of your pocket and going into the pension fund, the difference is that 3% contribution. That's the only downside difference. The upside difference is the cash out option. In the event when you retire or if you were to pass away before retirement.
And downside is also waiting, that's assuming a year.
You know, I was giving you the downside of the hybrid as compared to
Correct,
the CERS
correct.
plan. So if you could just snap your fingers and pick either one now, the only downside of the hybrid as compared to the CERS plan is the 3% additional contribution.
But always keep in mind, though, that you're currently paying 5%. So it's going to be, very good at the same.
But there is that additional 2% even with the hybrid that goes back into your account, correct?
Correct, and that's why I'm saying I'm putting that aside for the moment because it's going into your ARP account. It's not going to the state retirement fund. I don't know who's first over
Yeah,
there.
well, go ahead there.
I just want to clarify
I'll give
something
them
you're saying.
time-wise.
The 3% that you're mentioning is for people who have been employed before 1997. It's 5% if you were employed after 97?
Well, say it a little bit differently. It's I was talking about the difference between the hybrid and the CERS plan. The difference between them is always 3%. It's just that the CERS plan before 1997 was free, and after 1997 it was 2%. The difference between them is always 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. 0 plus 3 is 3. Does that make sense?
Maybe it does, but I'm not understanding.
Okay. So what I was asked, I'm sorry I don't know anybody's name, but what I was asked by this person over here is about the difference between the hybrid plan and the CERS plan. The difference between those two things is the contribution for the employee is 3% higher with the hybrid plan than it is with the CERS plan. But as compared to what the question is, what would my contribution be altogether? That depends on which tier you're buying into. If you're buying into tier 2, your contribution altogether is 3%, because tier 2 is 0% and plus 3, 0 plus 3 is 3. If you're buying into tier 2A, then it's 5%, because tier 2A is 2% and there's an additional 3. That's leaving aside this little glitch that in tier 2 we now know you have to take 2% and put it into your own ARP, but I'm not counting that, because that's your money. You're keeping that money. Does that make sense? Sort of?
Sort of.
Okay. Yeah.
When the calculator comes out next week, how accurate?
Hopefully next week.
hopefully next week. How accurate will it be? Because they've always, when it's come out, it always has these warnings. It's not totally accurate. So how do you
It
know
is
for
supposed to
sure?
be real next week. That's why they're testing it, or whenever it comes out, it's supposed to be real. Meaning that this is, when you use it, it'll tell you what it will cost, not a guess.
Okay.
You know, so it should be hopefully
The
accurate.
the other calculator slash estimator that is supposed to be up and running also is one that will allow you to put in the current amount of money you have in your ARP account, and that will tell you how many years of service that would purchase. So, okay, so you're going to have two different calculators to
So
work with.
is that one accurate with
Yes.
how much it really
Supposed
costs?
to be accurate.
No,
Okay.
Again, they're not up yet, but
Steve.
I have two
a couple more questions.
And I think the first one's quick. Is the, if I recall, the SAG award was eligible for people that even included administration who were not members of the bargaining units.
Yes.
Is that also true of the hybrid plan?
I believe so. I mean, the way it works is that the Secretary of OPM has to issue a designation whenever we bargain something that it affects managers as well, and I'm 99% certain he's already done that.
They always have.
Yeah. Let's say the answer is yes. I mean, I haven't actually seen it, so that's why I'm hesitating a little bit, but I would be shocked if they hadn't already issued it. Because it would be the whole CVAC 2011. So, yeah, I'm sure they've issued it.
And not that I think this would guide anybody's individual decisions, but I'm wondering just about the possible institutional effects of this. Is it, right, I mean, on the one hand, as I believe the state's contribution actually for people that are inside of Sears is less than the cost for people that are in the alternative plan generally. But then there's the odd way of funding it due to the underfunding, so it always looks like the cost for people that are in Sears is considerably greater to the institution.
Right.
So if, in fact, many people make this decision, is it going to be significant enough that the institution itself is going to take a financial hit?
I have been told that the institutions have been reassured that if that were to happen, that the calculations would be done in a way that would be fair to the institutions. Now, notice how careful I'm being. I've been told that, and we're talking about calculations that are done effectively by OPM, who does whatever OPM does. But the question, for those of you who didn't hear it, or the right now, for those employees for whom the institutions are charged, which is most employees, the fringe benefits are not charged to the institutions. They come out ultimately of the general fund and a connection between the block grant and the general fund. So for full-time employees of these institutions, there is no impact on the institution. People who are on other funds, some kinds of grant money, some kinds of tuition money, etc., there is a chargeback from the comptroller's office to pay your fringe benefits. And that chargeback actually has a inflated figure if you've chosen CSRS. So it looks like the cost of CSRS is much higher than it actually is. And so what I think the question was is, if we have a bunch of adjuncts, for instance, who were to switch into the hybrid plan, would the institution then all of a sudden get a bill from the comptroller's office? And we've been told that there will be arrangements made to prevent any unfairness to institutions. Hopefully that will happen. Yeah.
Last question for me. I've always been told that with Tier 2, that what happens is that you look at your highest 3 or 4 years of salary, and then that's average, and you get some percentage of that as lifetime annual income based upon your age and service.
Well, not highest 3 or 4, it's just highest 3 years.
Highest 3 years, okay.
Yeah.
And would hybrid work the same way?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Phil just already answered, but just to confirm, some part-timers that now contribute to ARP, they could also buy
Yes.
and switch to the other plan.
They can switch to the hybrid plan. Or to the CSRS plan if the IRS allows everybody. They're treated just like everybody else.
But do they need again to be before 97?
No. No, anybody can switch. It's just how much whether they're switching into the Tier 2 hybrid or the Tier 2A hybrid will depend on when they were hired.
Last question.
Yeah, I just wanted to express appreciation. Thank you very much much. This was very helpful. I did sort of have a question follow-up. Now, I assume the comptroller's office has counseling people to work with one's individual circumstance. I mean, does AAUP sort of encourage people to go that route, or?
Well, yes. My understanding is from the retirement division is that they will be attempting to do some type of seminars in the different colleges and universities, because there's going to be a lot of people wanting to ask questions and so on and so forth. But I mean, in recent time, because the retirement division has always been short-staffed, they have sessions up at the retirement division on 55 Elm Street where, depending on what plan you're in, they have certain sessions, retirement counseling sessions for those particular plans, and the room has got 30 or 40 or 50 people in it. So, but that certainly counseling will be done.
Let me just add to that answer, and then I want to go back and talk about one other thing that I probably should correct something I said. Actually, I'll do that first. When the question was how will the institution be affected, and I talked about what we reassured in OPM, I just want to be clear to everybody here. We don't contractually negotiate the grant money for the state university, or those things we can't bargain the way we bargain rights for employees. So that's why I was somewhat hesitant when I say, we've been told that, meaning we can't enforce it. I have no reason to think when we were made this reassurance that it wasn't honest or accurate, or that OPM wouldn't, out to screw any institution. But I just want to be clear to everybody, we don't bargain those things. So that's why I said it that way. In terms of going to the counseling thing, stop me. The retirement division is the place to get counseling on all the arcane questions about what the plan stands for and how much it will cost you to move over and all those things. It is not set up, however, to counsel you well on the other side. Like if you were to say to them, if I switch, do I get this, 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 and this? They should be able to answer every one of those questions, right? Once the estimators are up, etc. But if you say to them, say I don't switch, and I keep my money in the ARPA account, what's a fair estimate of how much money will be there in 20 years? Okay, those are investment advice questions. The retirement division is not set up to do investment advice. They will, I'm sure, say that very directly to you all. And you're going to have to use your own investment advice. There's been some talk among the unions that perhaps we'll even set up some panel of investment advisors who would give people a discount in terms of their choices. Their consultation fee, whatever. But don't go to the retirement division asking for investment advice, because that's, they shouldn't be doing that, just like I shouldn't be doing it, or, a different profession. Yeah.
No, just to say that it would be very important for people like me who understand nothing of this, if in fact you did find a group of investment advisors who would be familiar with this problem and would be available for a fee to give advice. I'm willing to pay. I don't understand.
It's being looked into, but one of the things you have to keep in mind is there's no particular financial advisors out there that have the expertise about all the state plans. They deal on individuality, and people have other kinds of investment vehicles that they have in their for the retirement plan and so on. But there's at least to date, I don't know of any particular person out there, from some of the ones we've looked at, that have the knowledge of the state plan so that they can tell you categorically this is the best way to go. They're going to give you general information, but just keep that in mind. That's part of the difficulty, that the retirement division knows all about the state plans. They know the most about how they work and all the rest of it. But as far as financial advisors, it's going to be difficult to really see if we can find anyone that has the expertise to really, truly be able to advise you of one plan versus the other and all the rest of it. So it's difficult.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.